All right, good morning, everybody. Today is Friday, February 6th, and we're here for our very first DocRes call with Alliance. This is a huge group right now. It's like 115 people. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Um, First, I just kind of want to start off with the purpose of the DocRes calls. So for those of you that have been kind of waiting for this one, we're here to share lessons that OPRES learns with Alliance and all the servant team members in Alliance in collaboration with the Doggy team to help bridge these three teams, OPRES, Doggy, and Alliance, together into one cohesive unit to help facilitate quorum restoration. And in one of our recent Sunday Global Collaboration calls, we were beginning to distinguish between active OPRES nodes and non-OPRES nodes. And we never got around to really fleshing out that distinction, which is perfectly in divine timing because what we're learning now is that soon OPRES is actually going to be going global in the sense that all nodes are going to be part of OPRES. There's no more opting in. I know we had discussed that in one of those recent global collab calls that to become part of OPRES, you self-select in. But now there's no more opting in. All nodes are being thrown in, and it's kind of like an exciting sink or swim, but much more collaborative. So today, the purpose of this OPRES call is to help prepare all of the Alliance servant team nodes with a few key lessons on alignment and team coherence to better prepare and support you to prepare and support your quorums as OPRES truly goes global. So today's call is capped at 2 hours max, and that includes a Q&A at the end. So we're going to move relatively quickly through this. So be sure to listen closely and take lots of notes, and the replay will be posted as soon as possible. So what we're going to start off with is we have a few of our, a couple Florida servant, well, yeah, three Florida servant team nodes that are going to be sharing some of their experiences from the early OPRES days related to alignment, integrity, coherence. So we're going to start with Mark, Stable Genius, and Carla Stats. These two are going to share some of their experiences. We're going to move on to Adam, who will share a little bit of his experiences from a different perspective. And then each of them are going to be kind of capped at 15 minutes. So if you guys listen closely, you'll have really awesome opportunity to take some great notes. So Mark, Carla, whichever one of you wants to start first, you can go ahead and rock, paper, scissors for it, or just pick amongst yourselves.
Go ahead, Mark.
Okay, I'll go. Please forgive my voice. My voice is a little hoarse. Been having a slight sore throat, but I'm getting over it really quick. So, let me go ahead and start here. All right. First of all, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with everybody in Alliance for this stop press call. Um, to start my share, what I'm going to talk about is that it was probably started, I think it was about a week before the Emily World Tour in Florida. And there's a group of us at Florida, in the Florida server team that decided to create this subgroup amongst us. It's called Create and Collaborate Group. And this group formed out of the Florida server team. We voted on it at a meeting, and it was basically formed to help create efficiency in our meetings. So when we meet, we can be more smooth with what we're voting on and have our meetings not last that long. So then comes the Emily World Tour, and the Lucifer and Mary Magdalene D class was dropped. So there was a lot of excitement going on after that. The week after that, there was a lot of activity in the Florida chat. You have, a lot of excitement. People, Lenny and Callie were using the same Telegram account. It was hard to distinguish between them, who was using what was going on in that area. Emily was keeping in touch with us in the servant team, giving us, pep talks and, how to handle it and stuff like that. It felt like it was a high priority to separate Callie and Lenny for any type of healing that was going to ever be done. So, Emily had mentioned that that wanted the servant team to come up with some creative ideas on how to do this. So the topic of separating them was discussed at at our first, one of our second create and collaborate meetings since, it was the hot topic at the moment. So the idea of Carla having this horse therapy organization seemed like a really good idea, and she had an ability to get an Airbnb there as well, where she can be where Callie can focus, and it seemed like a pretty good idea. We um, came across it. We were talking about it. We're like, well, there is a face-to-face tomorrow, the next day in Daytona, where they will be, and we were all going to go. A lot of the server team was going to go and share with them this proposal that we have something for them. But there was a problem. We wanted to share with the whole servant team, but we didn't. We didn't have enough time, not even enough time to do a Zoom call. So what I did was there seemed to be a lot of ear whispering at the time. I was feeling it. There was a rush to get something done. So I put together a summary post of what we're going to propose and basically a summary of the meeting and placed it in the servant team chat. Now, um, we didn't really have enough time, so this just created more problems and the solution than instead of the solutions that we wanted. At the same time, all this is going on, there's still private comms going on within the servant team and as well as Florida chat. This is still going on sporadically, even and knowingly. So the lapses in integrity have already started and amongst us. Basically, we're falling out of alignment at this time. Um, so, it was a protocol to keep all comms in the servant team and Florida chat. Yet many, including myself, were not following it. And it was definitely not the way it should have been. What that did was it subtly created a lot of lack of coherence with the team. So after that face-to-face where Carla, myself, and other servant team members who are aware proposed this proposal to them, they kind of bought in on it. We're like, okay, so now they like it. Now we need to send it and talk about it with a Zoom call or somehow get the team involved so everybody can see that they bought in. We're thinking that this will be the event needed for their healing. As you can imagine, most of the servant team that wasn't at the face-to-face, they didn't know what was going on. They were clueless. They didn't read the post that I put, which is obvious. It wasn't obviously clear. They were not informed properly, and were not. No, they didn't know anything of the plan. There's a communication failure. So even though the plan was eventually approved to move forward, it was at an expense to the misalignment of the team and creating a lack of coherence. Um, Even after Callie was over here and set up for the first week, the process was still not organized and it was out of alignment. The protocol of having at least 2 nodes present that we created at all times was knowingly broken by me due to the misalignment that was obviously going on. So the communication was broken. We were rushing through the process of proper communication with the team. What it did was created a lack of trust and it eroded our integrity, mostly mine. So that in a nutshell is what we went through in the early stages of OPRES. If I can make make an example of a metaphor of what it felt like, is like if use a baseball analogy. Baseball is a game of coherence. Baseball is a game of multiple dynamics, but one of them is definitely communication. If you got 2 outfielders going for the same ball and one of them doesn't communicate to the other and let them know that person, I'm going to get that ball, someone is going to get hurt and someone could get severely injured. And with baseball, communication is happening all over the place with the team, whether it's the pitcher and a catcher talking about what pitch is going to be coming, or the coaches are talking to the runners on base and everybody else paying attention in the dugout, what play is being run. So obviously, communication was not there, and it wasn't where it needed to be. Only teams who communicate well and execute are successful. So, Danielle, did you want me to talk about the steps I took to clean this up for me, or did you want Carla to go on and share her part?
Um, However you want to do it. If you feel like, I mean, I feel like you're in a pretty good flow. So if you want to keep going, you keep going. You still got some time left. And then Carla can do her side.
Okay. Well, what I had to do was that we needed to fix this and we had to clean it up. We had to get ourselves back in alignment and we had to do it, timely. So what I did was I just had to admit to myself my mistakes. I put my big boy pants on and realized that, I made some clear errors. We had to commit to the protocols. I made sure about making sure I knew every protocol and wanted to stick with it. Made sure I wasn't communicating outside of comms, no DMs, no texting, no phone calls. I basically reprogrammed myself and I had course correct. I had to close my portals. I learned what these are. I didn't really have a good idea at the time, but Danielle helped me, and Eunice helped me understand what these portals are and how they are. These are activities or substances other than stellar-based stuff that don't have any function for our mission, but anything for the entities to sneak into your field. And so I had to learn that the hard way, but still learned it. Um, I had to do a lot of daily reflection. I self-bench myself. It's time to focus, work on myself and my healing, learning what to do about self-care and myself, how to take care of myself, my emotional needs, my sleeping. I had to basically embody my lessons that I'm learning. I had to live it day by day and apply it in my daily life. I also had to engage in my own healing calls. So what I found out was that I was willing to do it. I didn't really know till I was offered healing calls, but I had a willingness to do whatever it took. Um, I wanted to grasp the concept of my own self-healing. I didn't have a good concept of it, and I had to be honest with myself. So I had to really wrap my mind around it. And what happened was with my healing calls, and everybody's coming to, show support and love and have my back, it meant the world to me. And it started opening my heart and started, seeing a new mark that I didn't know before. I didn't know was there. It's where I found my strength. My strength, I found that I do have quite a bit of courage if I just start being in alignment and start being able to take action and empower myself and not fall to the victim mindset. So those are what I did to clean up my process of this unfortunate but definitely necessary learning experience.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. Go ahead, Carla.
Thank you, Mark, for that. I love you. Um, so I'm going to try to fill around the edges of Mark's story. We're a tight knit face to face group over here on the west coast of Florida, Tampa Bay, Clearwater, and in gathering together to ride to face to faces or coordinating food for the face to faces, etc. We were in a climate of private comms, um, but believing they were, in alignment because we were. It was about face to faces, so we were in that, and Mark and I were part of that, and all of basically a lot of our OG team that started out with this endeavor were. So this was a feeling that we were not out of integrity or out of alignment. I know for me, and so then I joined. I was looking at the timeline here, and I realized the speed with which this all happened. I developed quite a bit of empathy and compassion for my servant team because I actually I joined. I was promoted, stepped up to face-to-face coordinator on June 10th. So June 29th and June 30th was our world tour. This is 20 days. So 3 days. So the second day of the world tour, Emily huddled us together and told us about the D class of Unmasking Lenny and Callie and her ride down with Callie from Georgia and the recording on that. Um, I listened to that and my heart jumped. It's my calling in life to help people with their traumas, and my heart jumped for Callie that I wanted to help this girl. Um, so I so kind of at the end of that, the second day, we were all talking with each other um, and about how we could help. Um, so then 2 days later, we had our first create and collaborate call, which, like Mark said, what it was formed to do was one thing, to help with conversations on face to face and at topic matters on our quorum call. So, but there was a pivot at the beginning of the call saying, no, this is what we're focusing on is Lenny and Callie. And so the entire call was processing how we can come up with an idea. And I had already been processing because this is what I did with Warriors, which is healing retreats. So I thought, well, if we had buy-in, we could try this. But by the end of that call, the idea was that she was going to go to another of our quorum members' farm, and she was going to do some studies before. So that's what I thought was happening when I got off the call. Then a week later, basically July 10th, we had another Create and Collaborate call. I was driving, but I didn't realize how many people were on it. And by the end of the call, we had decided to move forward with this idea because that farm was not going to be available to Callie. So my belief in this came from I mean, looking back, the ego in that is that I got this, I can do this. But the speed of it that was happening, where we weren't going to be able to have a full team vote, was out of integrity and alignment. And um, I jumped in and booked it. There were those on the call that thought that's what we needed to be doing, is getting her separated by the uh, Monday. So there was a servant team birthday party for Callie on the 12th, and the idea was, I had said, unless she buys into it, it's a no go. So how we presented is a retreat, and so there was suggestion that you bring something that can present it to her. And I had just made a video of my pattern maker ICO. So I'm like, well, I can just throw it into a little video. So we go, and it's interesting because July 12th was also the trinary ICO. And I did the timeline back and how the ICOs were in divine timing with this entire process. And for me, all I had ever wanted would be a trusted node, a reliable node. And when we had to circle up on the 13th, once servant team realized, the rest of the servant team who weren't at the face-to-face with Callie, we had to circle up while Callie was waiting. So it was all very uncomfortable for everybody because she's waiting for it to be picked up to start. And so that I felt a wound of distrust and hurt and of feeling like I was not in integrity. And knowing that the Stellar Corp principle is fully trusted, honest nodes are genuine, consistent, authentic, and responsible. I believed I have been, but so we pivoted and we had our meeting, and everyone said, "Go ahead, we're this far in, let's go." So we pushed forward and started the retreat model with Callie. Um, it was going well, but the problems with the protocols not being in place and her full understanding of them to start with in her buy-in caused problems, a ripple problem forward. And still I had to correct the distortions of that just recently with her on a recording because it just kept rippling out of her lack of understanding, our lack of clarity on the actual protocols that she was going to be expected to have when she made her agreement. Um, so that's the ripple effect of not being all in alignment, integrity, and so we
Yeah,
face.
I
Sorry,
gotta wait on.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Carla. I muted.
Oh, okay. Um, so the trinary ICO, we face decisions whether to follow the call of the heart or a sense of duty, remain in the safety of the familiar, or leap into the unknown. And so that came out the day that we offered this to her. Then 10 days later, uh, because the free will and her strength and resilience, she's going to find her way. I came there one morning and the surrender ICO was out, and I realized that she had gone and chosen her free will to do some things that were out of product protocol. And at that point, I just sat with her and read the surrender ICO and realized I can't possibly um, be in control of all of these protocols with this strong-willed girl, and I need my team all together. And so it's not about me. So we read the surrender ICO together, and it's not a concession to weakness, but an invitation into profound alignment, a threshold that appears precisely when logic and the impulse to control yield to an unwavering trust to source. And I I needed my team, period, in the story. Um, and we needed to be all together to start with. The speed of this that happened is turned out in divine timing for all of the wounds that have been discovered in my trust wound, and how so that I really got it on August 5th with the 1% ICO. So it is with truth, a subtle 1% deviation in your understanding or actions, almost imperceptible at first, can over great distance transform truth into falsehood. In the quiet architecture of our lives, even the smallest misalignments have consequences that magnify over time. I mean, that's the bottom line. Um, so since then, our comms have been in that original create and collaborate folder where I thought I was communicating with the whole servant team, but it was really just a folder that not everyone knew to go to yet. Um, and so then we turned it into the folder for this, and for people, all of the servant team to check in to stay up on the Lenny and Callie folder. And in all communication. Like, we're 10 minutes away. We need this. We need that. All communication like that has been in that was in that folder, and that's how we adjusted and course corrected, because there was a lot of course correcting. I was feeling like, I don't know if you about the Turkish little whirling dervish. I felt like a whirling dervish. I was pivoting so much during that time to course correct, course correct with the little bumps on the side of the road when we're trying to stay in alignment. Our team are those little bumps on the side of the road. Whoa, back in line. Whoa, we're out of alignment. So that's where we need each other, and it is imperative. And there's no little egos here. That there's no room for those. Those are Satan, and they just get us off track, because we are a team. We're cohesive. We need each other. Period. End of story. This is a team effort. On yes, we have our positions, and we hope we're playing them to our best of our ability, and we need to trust that each is playing their position right so that we can win. Whether it's baseball, I played basketball, really connected to baseball, or like Emily talked about soccer. We have to trust that each one is playing their position, but it all has to come into coherence to win the game, which is where we are. And we see the consequences when we don't. And the sooner we see them, the better off we are, the quicker we can course correct. Because we can course correct and get back on the road, or we can run off in the ditch, and it takes help to get us out. So then the last day that they were in Pinellas County before we moved them, they were moved to a northern part of Florida, was the Weaver ICO. So moment by moment, these imperceptible strands weave us together into a fabric of quiet understanding, trust, and care. I won't go on. I have a whole bunch of other notes on these ICOs, but I'm probably at my time. But that is my experience. I wouldn't change it at all, because it's been like the sandpaper to my wood, or the rock polisher to my rock. It's been everything that I've needed, and I hope I've given my best.
Thank you so much, Carla. That was really beautiful.
Before the next person goes, I just want to say a rock polisher to a rock is actually water. Water polishes stone.
Beautiful.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Adam. And then we've got a couple questions that we'll move to, and then we'll move on to our next section.
Yeah, thank you. And Carla, love that. That was beautiful. And I don't want to hash over kind of what really Mark and Carla kind of brought up. I was one of the nodes that was kind of surprised by the decision to kind of go start the equine therapy, which I think everybody agreed that it was good, but it was more of like we're all standing around at the before the race at the start line, and then all of a sudden the gun went off and a whole bunch of people are running, and we're like, hey, we got to catch back up. So, but to kind of what Carla had said, I think the speed of this and also the size and scope was a lot larger than I think any of us anticipated. And I do think, there was some other kind of things from I would say, miscommunications kind of that wasn't brought up was, we would be having discussions in person with Callie, and some nodes kind of were put on the spot, and she would ask a question and they feel they'd have to answer right there. And so they would inadvertently start making decisions for the team instead of saying, hey, I hear what you say. Let me go back to the team and talk about it, and we'll get back to you. So we had kind of some of those things going on. We also had where, just people were wanting to kind of donate, just say everyday items. I think when Callie came, things like pots and pans or, paper towels, something of that along that nature, they would just say, hey, great, I've got an extra, I'll just give it to you. But instead of kind of communicating to the team, we would have kind of some of that versus kind of all coming together as a group and deciding before we did anything. So, I mean, obviously with the DMing and kind of some of the sidebar discussions, but it's even all comprehensive, even kind of what we'd kind of consider smaller things. But then I do think too is talking about communication, Callie and Lenny both kind of understood that we were disconnected and disjointed, and that caused a lot of problems. You got to think of Callie, you know, she was new to QSI. She was familiar with us. I think she went to like, you know, a handful of face-to-faces before Emily World Tour, and then she gets this announcement, and next thing you know, she's moved away from her husband with her daughter with people that she really didn't know. And I think she was very vulnerable and super brave to kind of go do that. But I think when we were miscommunicating, she would highlight that too and saying, hey, this person said I could do this, and now you're telling me I can't. So, and that really kind of caused like a 2 steps forward, 1 step back, especially in the very beginning, is we were just by not properly communicating and being on that same page, really kind of hurt ourselves. And just kind of, I was thinking through it too, is it's, you know, when I look at the whole team, not just the folks that were on site, I mean, there were so many things going on where, you know, kind of coordination and logistics that we had to do. You know, we had face-to-face coordinators that were kind of prepping material in advance before, you know, Callie would go to a face-to-face. So they had to be in line with all the discussions that were going on. Likewise, kind of all the budgeting and tracking and expenses. Just, you know, promises that we were going to get and things and making sure people reimbursed. And then everything going on in the chat. So, and that's just specific to Opres. We were still having to do all the normal day-to-day kind of running a quorum. And so, and even with Opres, I mean, we had something like 500 people join the chat over the course of 2 months. And so the moderator team just onboarding people. So you can kind of just think of the scope and size and how important it was for all of us to be lockstep, especially if we're all having interactions. So I think the other thing too was kind of with the tight communications. I think with all the disconnects that we were having, it really went back to, I want to say it was about 3 weeks or so from where we really started to where we needed to kind of gel more. We were having people getting benched. And I think to Danielle's credit, I think we had one certain team meeting where she's like, we're going to read the integrity ICL. And I think I had to go look it up. It was the 29th of July. But I think that was the real big turning point for us, in kind of getting us all back into alignment on where we should be going and how we should be thinking, really kind of returning to stellar. And kind of had this thought process with it too, is really when I look back on it, this whole experience of what we started to do is we were, you know, going from studying stellar to really walking and living stellar. And I think that was the kind of key moment for all of us to where we said, aha, I get it. If we're not lockstep with that, you know, kind of practice what you preach. I do think too is, you know, Mark had brought up about benching. And I think one of the challenges that we had was a lot of people that were falling into fog or falling out of residence basically were saying, hey, we're taking you off. And I want to say we had probably 4 or 5 bench nodes. That in turn made it a lot harder for people on site from scheduling. But I think as we got better with our communications, I think one of the things we noticed was you could start to see patterns in people. I think since we were so closely coordinating, you can really start to see when people were starting to get out of alignment and catching them in a fog. And so I think from a discernment perspective for the entire team, our ability to do that just totally leveled up. So, I think that's really all I had kind of relative to, kind of compared to Mark. But I think, there's a lot more things that went on, but kind of on the upfront, I think it was just very challenging and chaotic and actually wonderful because, to what Carla had said, we had learned so much and totally didn't regret how that all went down because it absolutely gelled us as a team way more than we thought we were. So thanks.
Thank you, Adam. So I'm going to go ahead and ask a couple of questions for the three of you before we move on to our next speaker. I love what you guys shared. And I kind of want to like hammer in, if you guys notice, those of you that are listening, if you notice like a theme, that falling out of integrity is falling out of alignment. So integrity and alignment are synonymous. When each of you, and you guys can kind of answer however you want. If all three of you want to chime in on this, feel free. Just one, it's okay. But when you guys came back into your alignment, did you find that it brought clarity to your purpose in those early operas days? And if so, what purpose did you discover?
I can go first. Okay. Um, so I went through multiple wobbles, as you know, um, and I felt like it was the perfect learning experience for me. No, I'm not regretting anything. I think the way it went down for me was I had to go through these wobbles, and I had to learn what it felt like to be out of coherence, be out of alignment, have my integrity eroded. For me to learn this in the most epic way, and for this journey, I realized that I'm okay with being thrown out into the unknown and having the faith that things will be better in the end. My purpose, I think, is still forming. Uh, as long as I'm in alignment, which equals integrity, I learned that I have a strong sense of courage and when I'm focused in my alignment. So um, I just know that if I keep doing this and focusing on what I need to focus on and keep out all the distractions, I do know that I have a deep calling to help people, help them heal, and in an agile capacity. That means that I'm able to adjust and course correct. And so I like it that way because it's not defining me into one narrow form, but I'm able to just really be a utility to help out in any way I can. So that's if I found any clarity, it's because that's where I feel I'm going to be most suited.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me is really similar to Mark. I think it's really the healing. I think maybe not necessarily in the beginning as much, but if I look at it from as where we are today, I would think that the healing aspect. So as say nodes were being benched, we started having a whole bunch of healing calls, and that just absolutely resonated with me. And then when we got further along in doing alignment checks, and that really for me clicked and to really understand what we're here for mission wise and the human aspect of it and how we help each other, um, and how many people are really hurting that you don't even know, people that are sitting there right next to you. And so to me, I just absolutely love it. It's really kind of helped me not only just obviously within QSI, but even with my family life. So I don't know, I love it. Glad we so glad we had the opportunity that it fell into our laps, really. And it's just been such an awesome experience.
And me, that just the alignment within myself, I know that I've always known that it's within my hula hoop, my power, but the ripple out effect of this purpose, that it does start with each and every one of us, and how in alignment with ourselves first ripples out to be in alignment with our nodes that we're working with closely, and then alignment with the team, and then alignment with you and alliance, how it's such a ripple effect, and um that that is my purpose. It all started with this, and this is the purpose of it rippling out to everyone here today. So I thank you all for this opportunity.
Thank you guys. So, oh, you shared so many like awesome bits. I kind of want to transition just a little bit because we talked about integrity and alignment, and we've talked about coherence. And I kind of want to use like similar to how I said a minute ago that integrity is synonymous with alignment, and when we're falling out of integrity, we're actually falling out of alignment. And so, kind of like in that same vein, coherence is successful collaboration. And so you guys from the Florida Servant team, those of you that are here in operas, you had to come together in a much different capacity than just a typical servant team, running a quorum like Adam was talking about earlier. So you were kind of stretching beyond just your slideshows and the education and all of those sort of more like administrative type tasks. And you were leveling up to what I like to refer to as real world application. So like we have RWA, like real world assets, but this is like an example of real world application of the lessons learned. And so you were shifting your function as just a regular sort of average servant team to like full blown ops team, right? And as we kind of heard peppered throughout your stories, a few nodes were benched throughout, and they were receiving healing support to get back into alignment. Because if you're going to bench a node, you can't just leave them there. Clearly they need support, right? And so the first instinct was we need to help bring them back in, because if we just allow our benched nodes to sort of figure it out on their own, right? It takes them longer to get back into alignment because they don't have the support. And without that support, this can trigger wounds of feeling isolated or rejected, right? Which can make it even harder for them to heal on their own, right? So there is an element of healing individually, but the collaborative healing is what really helps to pull everybody back together. The second thing this does is when we provide that healing support for nodes that are benched, if we don't do that, right, our numbers dwindle. So we have less team members to accomplish a big goal, right? So it's beneficial to continue to provide that collaborative healing support in order to keep all nodes on deck, right? And this is like the where we go one, we go all. We can't just have one node stranded out there by himself. We all need to be in this together. So what you guys did essentially was kind of fast track yourselves through these lessons on collaboration. And so kind of my next question before we transition to our next node, who's going to give an awesome testimonial, is what steps did you take as a team to bridge from a normal servant team to this full operational collaboration that supported the healing of other nodes in your quorum?
Carla, Adam, I think I actually have a list of things that we all did. I'd love to share it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So I collaborated with the servant team, and we came up with, a bunch of steps that we took in order to help fast track our collaboration. And we got quite a list here. So it's going to be great to share this. So number one, we learned how to have more patience with each other. This relates to when Danielle took over our servant team meetings and on Tuesdays, and she provided us with a blueprint plan for operas. This is where our collaboration really started. There was countless times when the Florida servant team had business that had to be brief and to the point. I think someone said this earlier, but we had daily reminders of the importance of integrity. We read ICOs during meetings and on site. We did it as a group lesson at realizing that our integrity was beginning to falter and we needed to course correct. Our fast tracking collaboration, what that looked like was quickly adjusted to meeting twice per week in order to get communication at the highest levels. We were refining our process of ongoing self-reflection, which means prioritizing our self-healing, not being lazy. We were learning and understanding new concepts like the risk of open portals and allowing entities access your antenna and leaky buckets and the wounds that aren't healed. We talked about this constantly. We must heal ourselves before we can heal others. We learned about savior entity in the process. It was a new one for me and for everyone. We learned how to build back trust by embodying integrity, doing what you say you're going to do, following protocol, being agile and pivoting where and when the team needs to go, recording calls for learning and to prevent distortion. We learned how to schedule on-site duties with multiple nodes for maximum efficiency. We learned how to decentralize our efforts, accounting, virtual work, Airbnb researchers. We stretched a lot and throughout the team to do all types of odd end jobs. And Danielle helped us coordinate how that's done. And now it's like, very easy now for us to do because of that guidance. So thank you, Danielle. We learned how to manage and stretch a tight budget. It's very important when we don't have unlimited funds. You got to make sure that every dollar can get as much as it can. We became more organized, opening a new designated topic folder. We commuted every little thing in that folder. Nothing was hidden. We assigned roles and tasks based on availability and capabilities. We had nodes step into roles when others were less involved due to mission time. So everybody stepped up on the team. So when Opera's nodes were busy doing mission stuff, even the ones that weren't really doing much, they started stepping up. So that was cool. We took polls and voted on things when they needed to be contributed. Almost every little thing that needed to be contributed to Lenny and Callie, we voted on. We voted on and made sure that we had consensus. We had to drive with at least 2 reliable nodes in the car with Lenny, Callie, and Violet to face-to-faces, and we recorded the calls so we could hear any distortions and learn from them. We learned to pivot and to be agile and course correct. We learned to ask relevant questions without inserting our own stories to fully support the healing of other nodes during calls. More efficient in our ways. Some servant team members asked for quickie calls and that helped them heal and strengthen the team with an abundance of support coming from unis and all of QSI. A lot of servant team nodes increased their visibility by speaking up, finding their voice, and collaborating more. And an interesting one is that more members stepped up and made a commitment to attend more face-to-faces while we were doing this. Right now, we have about 4 to 5 new prospective servant team members that are wanting to join in some capacity since we started bringing in new members on. So it's quite the list of things that our servant team is now able to do in full collaboration that we weren't able to do before.
Thank you, Mark. Adam, Carla, do you guys have anything to add?
No, what he said. That's
Yeah,
good
no,
list. Thank you.
Mark did an awesome job covering that. I think the only two that really just the discussion in chats, I think, right? That was probably the big thing as far as, take no assumptions and nothing was too small to talk about. Put it in the chats. And I think that was really important too, because everybody was seeing that same message. So as we were all off doing multiple different things, we were all alignment. So to me, that's like one of the key ones. And I love it too, how you said, Mark, the roles of, you can see where half of the team was very, very super engaged in it. You had so many other members step up and, things where admins may be running a Monday night call. We had face-to-face coordinators and moderators. So, I mean, everybody's game was raised from this, whether they're working every single day with them or just on the periphery. So.
Okay. Joan, do you have something to add on this? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Adam and Mark and Carla, you did a fabulous job. I wanted to just point out that when people started, on-site nodes started getting a little wobbly and falling out of alignment, Danielle came up with the idea of doing alignment checks. And that was brilliant. So we started all getting together after the on-site meetings so that we could make sure that we were all still in alignment. And then this progressed and moved into something that we began to call the hybrid alignment calls, because when Care Bear 1 and Care Bear 2 facilities were up and functioning, we found that there were some nodes that weren't able to travel to the on-site alignment checks. So Danielle facilitated the hybrid alignment checks where we had some people on Zoom and some people on site. And what's really exciting now is that we are now moving to full quorum alignment checks. And we have been working in our Florida servant team and our quorum to actually figure out how we're going to do this moving forward. I think we've picked a day and we're going to start with the full quorum doing alignment checks. So thank you, Danielle, for that. And thank you, team, for doing such a beautiful job.
Thank you, Joan. Go ahead, Boss or Martin.
I just wanted to go back to something that Adam and Adam and Mark talked about really briefly earlier, and it's that there's no detail that's too small that should not be entered into transparency for everybody. Because one thing that we notice, whether it's in a quorum chat or a servant team or unicorn chat or alliance or anything, is that over time, these tiny little details, which may seem very insignificant, ends up becoming a dot for proof. It's either a proof because we now established a pattern, or it's a dot that we see, oh, it's not just a pattern that somebody is in a fog, but maybe everybody missed it because everybody's in a fog. But we can't check that. We can't go back and establish these patterns unless those small details are mentioned. And on the flip side, sometimes it's like what you might think is a very insignificant detail becomes, oh, that was the turning point where that person started to wobble. That doesn't sound like their old version. This sounds like a new version of them, right? So again, I cannot stress enough that the smallest details should be put in there so that you can start to go back in time and do your analyses on it because everything becomes clear at that point. Thanks.
Thank you, Boss. Okay, so I want to, before we transition to Tom Jacks, I just want to kind of highlight one more thingy here. Was, excuse me, was that as you each healed individually, we were working through the individual healing calls with each of the Florida Servant Team Operas nodes. And so as each of you healed individually, this is what allowed you all to heal more collaboratively. Because as you are healing and coming back into alignment and learning your own lessons, you guys were kind of graduating into also being able to support each other more. So just as like another takeaway from that, we're going to transition to Tom Jacks now because I kind of asked Mark, Carla, and Adam to sort of start with the discussion today. Mark and Carla are two of our like on-site nodes, so they have more like boots on the ground experience. Adam, I had asked him to share from his perspective because he was never like an on-site node, but he actually was really instrumental in helping me. I felt like he was kind of like a megaphone that helped me to like get the message to the whole quorum. He really helped to like echo that and carry it forward. And so, but he was more of like a virtual node, like kind of in the background looking and just sort of supporting in that way. So I wanted to have like a variety of perspectives to share from today. Tom Jacks is going to be speaking next, and he is one of our Operas nodes that he kind of came into the picture in the very early days. If you guys remember when Operas first started collaborating with Alliance, we had our first like Operas Alliance collaboration calls, and we were trying to recruit cross-pollinating moderators for the Florida chat. And Tom Jacks was one of the first ones to step up, and he came over into the Florida chat and he's helping with moderation, and he's showing right away that he is a really strong guardian. And so when the Opera's workstation started up, it was like, definitely Tom Jacks needs to come over because he's showing that he's got something. He's got drive, he's got consistency. He's using Stellar to defend Stellar. He's being like a guardian, not a guard dog. So he just had all these amazing qualities that we were like, we definitely want him on the team. And then when he came in on the team, we we had like some of our first like team meetings where we were like, okay, so we want to establish different teams that have different functions within the Opera's workstation. And Tom Jacks kind of ran with the healing team. He was like, well, I'm going to go support on these healing calls. So he started participating in lots of different quorum healing calls and just sort of like ran with it. And we were like, he is amazing in like every way, right? So he's now like the new team lead for our what we call our healing team, but it's basically just like a team of Opera's nodes. That's kind of all of us, but there's a few that are more designated to like that's kind of their specific interest, where he really helps to keep track of all the quorum healing calls when they are and making sure that there's plenty of Opera's nodes available to participate on them and provide support. So kind of watching this little like journey of Tom Jacks from prior to our initial Operas Alliance collaboration in the very beginning, I had seen Tom Jacks like in global a few times, but I wasn't really like he wasn't really on my radar very much until opera started. And so I've kind of watched from like the very beginning to just see him like beef out with these like massive muscles. And he has just been doing amazing. So kind of what I'd like to do is ask him to share his sort of testimony on what it was like to step outside of his comfort zone, and kind of like the feelings and thoughts that he was experiencing as he started to step outside of his comfort zone, what he learned through that process, and what his new kind of like expansion slash beefed out self feels like now that he's kind of reached a new next level. So Tom Jacks.
Well, thank you very much, Danielle, for the kind words. That was very, very nice of you. Well, first of all, I would like to say that that description is very accurate, because that is exactly how this whole process, this whole has felt for me from the beginning. Um, so, I mean, I guess when you first made the announcement, putting the team together, was Operas really, a lot of people raised their hands to sign up. And one of the stipulations is like, oh, make sure you've done your healing. And I raised my hand. I wasn't really confident in that the fact that I knew what I was doing. But one thing I did know is I've definitely done my healing um, throughout my time since we've known healing is an important fact. Um, So right away, I don't have any experience with any type of this situation of opera. No, I'm in the trades, so like the corporate world, any type of retail, any more like this is not me. So this is totally out of my realm. But at that point, I was also like that could be a good thing because I could bring a different perspective in that maybe people that have been in that industry or industries, typical ideas maybe I can bring. So anyways, that kind of gave me a little confidence right off the bat. But I quickly found out that I entered a zone of discomfort for sure. But I was definitely determined. definitely determined, because this is what resonated with me. This is what I wanted to do. Once I found out what kind of operas were all about, and what we were going to do, with Lenny and Callie and Violet, at the beginning, I was all for it. Um, so I guess it was about, yeah. So I guess it was about the time when we really started to wrap up. So operas was there before the workstation. There was no workstation at first, right? Right. Okay. So when you kind of announced to the workstation and you asked who wanted to jump in the workstation, I raised my hand again, and you asked for like a short little resume, a description in Alliance. So I gave mine. I said, well, we'll see. You're not thinking much because I didn't feel like I would have been on your radar. That's how I felt. Um, but when you put that list out, I kind of saw the list like on a notification. I saw the post. I'm like, but it was so many names there. My mention didn't show up. So I was like, oh, I'm not even on the list. So then I went down to read it. He was on the list, and my name was on there. And I was just like, it was like a flood of, it was like activation instantly for me. I was like, okay, this is it. This is it. I am ready to go. Um, because I was also looking at this like, growing up, um, I never really had. I feel like I've never really had that shot. Everyone has that shot you get, or the people who get the shots. It's all about who gets that opportunity, right? I never got that, and I definitely deserved my shot. Doesn't matter because I put in the effort. Doesn't matter where it was. So I felt like this was my shot. But now knowing I wasn't supposed to get those shots, in my life, I was this is it. This was it. All those shots previously, forget about it. This is what it led to right here. So I knew this was huge, and I wasn't gonna get discouraged because I know, at this point I was a little nervous too. Still kind of like, okay, well, great. Now I'm in the workstation and I can, help even more. But I still don't know what the hell I'm doing. At least I felt like that. So not long after the opera's workstation started, I felt like I really started to embody the opera's mission. Um, and the thing is, but I didn't really do anything different. Um, the biggest thing I did, in my opinion, what any of you guys can do when it comes to healing is doing it consistently. Because that is one thing that I will put against anyone. My healing can put up against anyone. My healing consistency, I'm very strict with it. But I feel like I didn't really have to do anything differently. It was a very organic process. Um, healing, and it just felt like it felt like a very natural level up. Is exactly how it felt. That's how I would really describe it. Um, I ended up getting a lot of mental clarity. Really came to me in a short amount of time, and I feel like I started to really really grasp a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff that I've been putting effort into, but I just couldn't really grasp. I was this close. It just took this one extra step of confidence, one extra boost, for all this to come flooding in. But what I realized recently, actually, this is recently I realized this that confidence boost that it gave me, I didn't need it. Just like no one needs a confidence boost to get involved in op res. Nobody. You guys should already have the confidence. I already had the confidence. I already was doing the healing. I just didn't recognize it. So I'm telling you guys right now, you guys you all have it. Okay? You all have it. Just pull it out. Pull it out of your pocket. Pull it out of your wallet. Pull it out of your toolbox. Okay? You guys have the confidence to really jump into this full force without being timid. I mean, because it's obvious to see someone who's kind of unsure and kind of someone who's not unsure, and that can make a big difference in healing calls, in my opinion. Um, and basically, and that brings me up, that brings me up to now, and how important it is to stay in alignment, and stay in integrity, which I'm glad you brought up, Danielle, how integrity is also synonymous alignment, basically same word, right? Interchangeable. Um, and if you are embodying integrity, embodying the alignment is next in line, is next to follow. It's just if you're embodying the integrity, you're in alignment with the mission. You're already and it flows very naturally, very effortlessly into the next step, into a level up of healing. Um, and as far as I mean, okay, one more thing here before I know I don't want to take too much time. I might be at my 10-minute limit already. 2 more minutes, it looks like. Okay. Um, I just want to say, I am a member, my local quorum is the New England Quorum. And, ever since Opera the healing calls have really taken off, I've been going into the quorum and really rah rah the servant team up, because it's been it's been a little stagnant in there for a while now. No one's really kind of stepping up. The same two admins for a while, same moder. So and I just want to, say that within the past couple of weeks, we've had a node step up for admin training. We have another node step up from help at a moderator, and we have another node helping out with will be helping out with OpRes, with something that's coming real soon. I don't want to announce it yet because I don't know if I should. But so there's a lot of people stepping up already. And I'm on a lot of healing calls, obviously, and I see a lot of you on a lot of healing calls. But if you are not on a lot of healing calls, and if you're not on healing calls at all, get on healing calls. Get on the healing calls. Not necessarily for the other person. Yes, it's great for the other person that the healing call is for, but get on the healing calls for yourself. Speak up. You guys already have the tools you need. You just have to do it. I know I keep saying this every time I speak up, but you just have to do it. Just get in the game. And pretty soon you're not going to have a choice. The word on the street. So that's, it's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing. And like the past couple months for me have been off the charts. Amazing as far as how I feel mentally, clarity wise, just my whole body. It's unbelievable. And I can't say enough about it. And for you to recognize it, Danielle, I mean, obviously it's not something that I'm making up. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. And yeah, thanks guys. I hope I see you in upcoming healing calls, all of you. A lot of them. I'm taking attendance.
Thank. Oh, I don't know. Did Bas, do you want to say something?
I was just whispering to Martin. I was like, I wonder if you're going to do a recap of the lessons, or if you want me to do a high level recap of the lessons before Q&A.
Well, before we move on to Q&A, Yoki's going to share just a few like encouraging messages. And so we can do like a high level recap if you want, and then move on to those encouraging messages from Yoki and then on to Q&A.
Oh, me first? Okay.
Sure.
So the reason why I asked Tom Jacks to come on and share his stories because all the other testimonials beforehand were all the Florida Opros nodes who were on site, like meaning live in person with Lenny and Callie, versus Tom Jacks is somebody who's online. Because as Liana, as Tom Jacks, other people have been mentioning, is we're going to start transitioning this starting tomorrow with the big call, is we're going to transition this to a global operation above and beyond what people have been thinking is a global operation. And of course, I'll share more details on that tomorrow. So I want people to understand that this is not something that's strictly limited to physically being in person with another node who needs help, but it's online assistance anytime, anywhere, all the time. The second thing is, and you mentioned this really well, Tom Jacks, but kind of everybody did, is there's no growth in the comfort zone and there's no comfort in the growth zone. So if you think that you're going to make improvements and heal and gain and increase while life is cushy and you have no problems, well, then you're going to have a big problem because you're going to get poked and prodded in so many pressure tests to get you out of that ego state. And the faster you can drop your ego state and understand that you are a quantum computer, you're meant to deprogram and reprogram new things, new skills, new behavior, new actions, everything, the faster you'll become successful in this. Be like what Tom Jack said, be totally all in and make sure that you understand this is your shot, guys. And this shot is bigger than any shot you'll ever get in any 3D meat suit lifetime. So please take it seriously because we're all taking this seriously. And if I go back to some of what the other nodes said, broken communications and private communications need to end because, like I said earlier, all the smallest little details, these little nuances can be lessons that we learn or triggers that we need to see how things kind of went askew. So everything needs to be fully transparent so that everybody can access that kind of information. Um, let's see. There was a lot of talk about how we need to understand that this is not about individual effort. And we'll talk more about that on tomorrow's call as well. But in the beginning, it was all about, okay, I want to be noticed. I want to really prove that I'm worth it, that I'm valuable, and that I'm good enough to be here. So it's all about me. What can I bring to the operation? But what we're noticing is it's a transition to not what you can do by yourself, but what can you do collaboratively with the team, with a quorum, with global, whatever it is. Because it goes back to Ivan's lesson. Somebody's got to plant the seed and somebody's got to water and somebody's got to put the fertilizer back onto that flower. So we have to work as a team. So it's not about what I do that made that person heal, but what is that one thing I can contribute? And what is that one thing that everybody can contribute? So collectively, we're going to start to see a lot of growth and movement. Let's see. Agility, course correction without ego. This will be a massive thing that we're going to hit on tomorrow's call. So leave that for tomorrow. Um, Another big lesson that we learned is that Letty and Callie had assumed that everybody who was helping her was fully healed. So that was part of a big reason why they didn't understand the disconnect. And as we kind of branch outwards into a global operation, I think that part will be a little bit easier. But for Florida, this will be a continuous lesson for you guys because even though they're starting to understand it more and more as we start to let them into this side of the operation, there's always going to be that gap until you close it, right? So it's kind of like the more healing that you guys do, and the more efficiency it gets, the more understanding the person who's receiving the healing gets. But when you're the one that's on that side of the fence, you have the assumption that you're only helping me because you're perfect. And so it's kind of like you have to understand that you're helping them because you want to help them, not because you're perfect, but you can use your lessons to help them at the same time too. Um, so yes, it is about like we want to go and help the lost sheep. That's kind of like priority number one. But at the same time, we have to look at who are the wounded sheep. Liana mentioned this earlier, because as you're going to help the lost sheep, the ones who are going to help, they've been trekking all day long. They're getting tired, they're getting worn down, they become wounded sheep. So we also have to tend to the wounded sheep, but we still have to make periodic check-ins on the healthy sheep, because the healthy ones have been carrying the weight for everyone else. And so it's very easy for the healthy sheep to suddenly become the wounded sheep or to become the lost sheep. So it's this like backwards moment that you have to kind of, keep your eye on everything, but at the same time know where and how to prioritize it. Um, let's see. Yeah, the last thing I want to hit, because I have a couple more points, but I'll leave that for the end of the call, is that, guys, what we're really going to see is that everything that we've been doing so far is kind of like a simulation of Operation Restoration. It's been kind of slow paced. Most people are still observing what is Florida doing or what are the people who are flying into Florida doing, but they feel very disconnected from the operation. And beginning tomorrow, it's going to be live operation. And a live operation means everybody's involved every quorum is involved. There's no more hiding or running away from this. There's no more time gaps in between. So we're going to really start to see that the people who think that, as an example, I like if you're not very involved now in QSI, but you want to be a QP, you're going to fall further and further behind because your attention is not on this operation. So the ones who become more and more involved and more engaged and they stay more on top, they're going to have a very easy and smooth transition with how fast the agility works. Because Unicorn Team especially can tell you sometimes, oh, and in Florida, obviously, but sometimes these course corrections take place after a month or after a week. But more recently, they've been happening within a day, sometimes even within a few hours. So if you are not fully engaged and present, and you're missing many days or many weeks and you're not able to catch up, that's why you're falling further behind because we've already been pivoting and transitioning and you're left stuck over here. So that's why if you have an ego and you're saying, well, that's what Emily said on February 2, I'm sorry, today is February 6. We've already moved on. So you just need to learn how to course correct as soon as possible. So I'm going to leave it at that and go to Q&A, and then I have just a couple more bullet points I want to touch on afterwards. Thanks, Liana.
Thank you. So did you want Yoki to share her little blip first? Okay. All right. Go ahead, Yoki.
Thanks, guys. This has been a tremendous call so far. It's just been so heartfelt and beautiful. And I wanted to tack on something really quickly to what Tom Jacks was saying in terms of just get in there. We really have to have the courage to step out of our comfort zones because the comfort zone really equates to stagnation. And stagnation is about decay. And nothing about stellar is decay. It is all about life and quantum flow and just flow. So even if you're unsure of how to step out of your comfort zone, I think Tom Dix gave us a beautiful, beautiful solution. Get on the healing calls because it's not just for the individual that's being supported, but it's also for you. And there's so much growth in just being present. So I'm going to flip to a couple of things because surely you guys don't think that we're going to have this awesome call and then there's nothing to action, right? So we have some actionable items that we want to leave with the team because you guys make up such an important part of what is getting ready to transpire and happen. So if you guys remember on the reboot call back in January, we shared some diagrams of the various quorum slices within QSI and how there is interconnectedness in everything. Even though it didn't seem like it initially, every slice, Dalgi, Alliance, the unicorns, global, the quorums, we're all very interconnected. And so one of the things going forward is that we want to be super uber intentional on dissolving some of those lines and some of those walls between the quorum slices and to really begin to integrate, collaborate, communicate, and work together, not as just Dalgi or Alliance or the quorums or, global, but as a unit. And so with that, before we pivot to Q&A, we have we're looking for more coordinated and intentional virtual healing support. So one thing that I have noticed within the last month or so, and definitely since us entering the frequency quarter, there has been a natural progression and uptick with not only virtual healing support, but also cross-quorum and multi-quorum healing support. So this has just been happening very naturally and gradually. So here is action item number 1. Hope you guys are taking notes, or at least come back, revisit this, because this is action item number 1. We want to find ways to collaborate with quorum members to find creative solutions to diminish quorum borders and begin to integrate more with other teams for increased cross-quorum collaboration. So this speaks to pushing our boundaries, coming out of our comfort zones again, integrating with one another, communicating with one another, And one of the things that I'll will kind of clue you in, guys, clue you guys in on, as Matt says, word on the street. There will be an upcoming healing call for some of the nodes that were at Care Bear 2, Liz, and Crystal. So instead of facilitating this call in the typical way that we've been doing, Danielle was really inspired to open this call up to Opera's nodes, but specifically to each of their respective quorum members so that they too can participate and share in supporting their fellow nodes. Okay, so action item number one is we really want to find more collaborative and creative ways of integrating and getting involved with intentional virtual support. Really utilizing the tools that we have online through Telegram, through Zoom, however that looks like, whatever that looks like, to really be able to bring an uptick to that. So think about it, talk about it with your servant teams, talk about it with your quorums. We have seen some of it, but there are definitely, because again, we're in flow, right? There are definitely some ways that we can be more creative and more intentional to make this happen. Okay, action item number two. And this week, in scanning some of the follow-up posts from the Kansas Brittany Healing Call, it was just really beautiful to see nodes with no or very little healing support modeling what they have learned in participating or sitting in on other calls, and learning that through this particular call with Kansas, and I think as many of us have learned, is that the healing support is not a formula, but it's a flow. And we flow in supporting each other, getting divine inspiration, getting the knowledge that comes through at the appropriate time in Kairos timing to be able to share what is needed at that particular point. And so with that, it's our own healing that impacts the level of support that we in turn are able to give others. So, in other words, there's no more hiding behind principles or buzzwords, but it is 1000% about our inner healing and the alignment and integrity that has to be there. There's just no more hiding, no more hiding places. So what we want to do is we also want to create or find ways that allow less experienced nodes to get in the game and to begin to practice actioning their own healing support through mentoring, shadowing with more experienced nodes. So in essence, what we're looking at is we want to bring an equilibrium to it, not just an imbalance where you have a group of nodes that are really good at healing support, are really good at getting in flow, that have really done a lot of their own inner healing and are able to bring impact, versus those that are still just observing, still on the sidelines, still in the comfort zone. We want to be able to level that out and allow those that have not had so much experience, may be unsure, to be able to really get in the game. So we also want to think about creative ways to give other nodes exposure in our virtual settings to be able to support other nodes. And here's the thing. It's super important. It's not just about giving support. If you need support, you're just as important and needed as well, because it's all part of the process. The nodes that need support are just as important as the nodes that are giving support, because it's all part of our learning, our healing, our training. Because what are we learning? One of the things is that we're learning that we can be students while we're still being teachers, right? That's what keeps us in balance. That's what keeps the harmony, even internally and within the group. So with that, you guys, we're going to go to Q&A. Oh my goodness, because we have 30 minutes. But we wanted to leave you guys with some action items, some things to think about, some things to consider, some things to bring to the table, because we're really starting to become intentional on dissolving the walls and learning how to collaborate as a QSI unit. Even though Alliance still has its functions, the quorum still has, their functions, servant teams. You guys specifically, the Alliance team, just as you've heard on this call in terms of how Florida beefed up from a servant team and servant team functions into operational nodes, you're now nodes that are activated for operating, right? So it's not just about, okay, well, we got to get our slides and we got to do our presentations and we have to worry about our quorum and our people and all of that. No, that day, well, you might have another 16, 18 hours to get it out your system. But now it is about collaboration as a unit, learning to work together, going through the bumps and the knocks and the processes to be able to become a well-oiled QSI machine. So I hope that makes sense. Love you guys. And Danielle, I'm going to turn it back over to you for Q&A.
Thank you, Yoki. All right, Tom Dex, I see you have your hand up. Do you have a question or
No,
you want to?
no, it's not a question.
Okay.
Just real quick, I want to piggyback off of Yoki, what you said about how this is everyone. Everyone is getting thrown into op-res. Everyone means every QSI member, okay? That's including the wallflowers, the wounded sheep, okay? So we're talking to Alliance now. This is a servant team, okay? You guys gotta, this is really on you guys to really get them to, come off that wall. We just can't sit there. Like if there's a wounded sheep, we just can't sit there and call them and say, come on, let's go, hurry up. We need to go down. We need to go back for them, literally pick them up, put them on our back, bring them up to our level. It is so much easier for us to do that than for them just to level up to our level of healing on their own. So just keep that in mind about, all the wallflowers. We got to really rally again, everyone getting into this. That's all. Thanks, guys.
Caveat, you only bring them if they're willing to go with you. You cannot bring them and carry them on your back and carry them through the door like what we used to do and we're course correcting from now.
Go ahead, Anita.
Thank you. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. I love everything that's been said today, and I'm so grateful to be here on the call. And right away, when Yoki was speaking, I'm thinking of our dear Node D from BC Quorum, who's been part of OPRES. And I would love to action what was being talked about to, like, I don't know if I could say wounded sheep, but it's been a couple weeks and of not hearing how she's doing, and her and her husband Dana. And so it would be really great if we could do this whole coming together, our quorum with an OPRES mission to help. Wanted to. It's more of a statement than a question at this time, but well, I guess the question is if that's possible to get going. Wanted to put it out there. So thank you. Love you all.
Thank you for the statement and the question. I'll answer this super quickly. The answer is yes. You're fully authorized. Go. All right. Next question, please.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Russ.
I got a question for you. There's something we're actioning over in Ohio and Indiana and reached out to Illinois, but it came from your post, Martin, about Indiana like joining over with Ohio. And then from there, it kind of spurred into a thought of just collaborating on healing calls within, a multi-state, within a multi-state area, and then taking those healing calls and instead of like, unless it's needed, to have one person, if they ask for one, sure, we'll do it for them. But then if there's nobody that is in need of it at that moment, going through like specific wounds and then having so many other people maybe share a little piece of what they're going through with that wound. Is this something that is in the right step?
I see it as a best option for those who feel like they want to contribute in like on or 2 hours calls, and breaking it down to the topics seems like a sensible thing to do in these cases. Also, with the smaller quorums, many times they don't have that thought of cooperating with other quorums, or maybe they just come on their calls. In case of Indiana, I believe it's a small quorum. Makes total sense to unite on that front, especially with Ohio and Illinois, and do it together. So topic-based healing is maybe another way of hitting the same targets, but a different angle. Yeah.
And we just want to stress that when you guys are doing that, the big key thing that we keep overemphasizing, because you cannot emphasize it enough, is it's not just about sharing what everybody's wounds are. It's about what is the freaking lesson, because that seems to continuously get missed on
Oh,
call.
I can actually add to that. And that's a part which is very uncomfortable. So I'm in the middle of doing some work on my future call or project. It'll be announced soon. But yeah, there is exactly that moment where I have to go back and think about the lessons. And that's the most uncomfortable section where I actually I'm not even able to sit in the front of my computer. I have to walk around the room and just really think, what was that lesson there? And that really takes time. It's sometimes uncomfortable, and many times you don't even remember because it's been decades ago. So the one thing is to share, another thing is to actually really to the detail to break down what were those lessons and different angles I go about them.
If I can make an additional suggestion, I know some quorums are already doing it in person, but I think if all quorums can really step up and transition those face-to-face events into more healing style events, and then that way people can look at, instead of saying, oh, you're wounded, let's do a healing session for you, then maybe people will volunteer to do it. Because if you start to reframe, the reframe should be people who are willing to do the healing are going to be that much closer to QP. So I hope they start to make that connection.
Thank you for that, and we'll make sure we incorporate, because we've already been thinking about that with the steps. You identify it, you action it, but then you also come with the lesson.
Thank you. Go ahead, Thomas or Tom.
Yeah, just a really quick one because you're talking about the cross quorum collaboration, and I just wanted to bring up the day or two before New Year's and New Year's Day, North Carolina ended up doing a ding dong dash across every single quorum in QSI. So I'm just thinking like gamify something like Pokemon Go that encourages that they have to go to every single quorum, or maybe five quorums, and boom, you've broken down some walls. And before they realize it, people will start tagging each other and kind of, just getting the flow going a little bit.
I love that idea, Tom, because it's actually kind of, if you guys remember the QSI quests we were doing last year, those are going to be restarting again to kind of help support this new direction with Opera. So it's not quite Pokemon Go, but it's definitely going to make it hopefully increase more engagement.
The only thing I want to say to that is we need to be very careful that we don't gamify it too much where people think it's just about fun and just about chatting, but it's about healing and connection. And I mean building real deep connections and not just talking about what did you do today, what did you eat, and what are your favorite hobbies type of thing. Because sometimes it feels like there are still quorums that are emphasizing more about, let's call it 3D connection than about deep, full soul healing connections.
Okay, go ahead, Renee, and then Amy.
Hey guys, that prompted me to say some of you may have seen this post I put in Alliance a while back where I had suggested that if there's any healing calls, because we do have so many going on right now across the board, that if there's any healing calls that happen during your regular scheduled quorum meetings, that to jump on those healing calls. And my kind of thinking behind that was our members that are not quite as active in making time to get on healing calls throughout the week, they've already got that time allotted because they've been getting on your own quorums call to all jump on that healing call, and then they're getting that exposure without having to make additional time if it doesn't serve them within their schedule or whatever the case may be. And then not only does that support the quorum members, but it supports the person that the healing call is being held for. So anyway, that's all.
In general, I really like that idea. I think the only thing that we also need to pay attention to is if there are big announcements for the quorum, that we don't miss them just because we went somewhere else for that a lot of time. So I think that that could maybe be easily solved if the people who are doing the minutes for the meetings are really meticulous on doing very clear, and I don't mean like long minutes. I just mean very clear and precise minutes. That way it's easier for people to catch up on the back end. Martin's still
Yeah,
deciding if he wants to say
I'm
something.
still thinking. I think I will answer in alliance in probably a couple of days because I have a couple of contradicting thoughts, so it would not probably serve to express them now. But yeah, there will be definitely good for us to have some sort of like a calendar or a couple of people who are actually tracking those healing calls and putting them together in one place. So I'm thinking about that.
So, but at least in terms of topics, healing trumps everything at this moment, and not just healing, like healing yourself, but supporting others in their healing. So whatever that means, right? Because that's kind of a generalized term. So whether it's online, in person, or if you guys can think of anything else creatively, then go for it.
I think we could do a subsection alliance with healing calls from all the quorums.
We already have that in Club QSI.
All of them?
Yeah.
Okay, so QSI then, yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Amy, and then Nick.
Yeah, I was just gonna piggyback off of what Emily was saying about like making things too much fun because we're one of those small quorums where I would say the majority of our quorum is not active. They might think they are, but they're more in a 3D sense, talking about everyday life instead of going into that deeper level. And then when something is, say, questioned, okay, so one thing on my healing call, I've admitted this many times. I have an avoidance, and I'm tackling that, and I'm working on that, and I see, and I'm learning the lessons in it, and so that's why I'm trying to actually speak up about this now, and that is something that currently going on with another member. She also has an avoidance, but when I look at the whole bigger picture, our whole quorum has an avoidance. Nobody wants to get out of their comfort zone per se. And so when we make things fun, that's all they want to do is, dance and have fun and talk this way. So I think we need to be mindful when it comes to this and really with good intentions. I get it. We all want to have fun and put, things out there, but sometimes some of us, and I want to say for a lot of us I'm speaking up for the smaller quorums, we actually need a lot of help. And because a whole quorum could be taken out just like that. And we have a couple of us, but there's only 4 on the servant team. 2 of us are actually on the servant team. The other 2 are helpers. And we're trying to make that bridge and get everybody to understand how important it is to heal. But what I see, and I really am working on this, is that the majority of our quorum is they do not respect me. They're still in the guard dog. They think I'm there, and I'm not. I'm well past that, and I'm okay with it, you guys. I really am. I understand where they're at, and I know where I'm at, and so I'm not going to let that, take me back or hold me back by any means, but I need some help. We all need some help of building that bridge. So anyway, I just wanted to share that little bit. I love you guys. Oh, I had one more thing. Um, on the I just had a healing call. It went amazing. I'm so grateful for all of you. Um, but one suggestion, I really did have a whole thing kind of written out to how I was going to do my story and then do my lessons. And I understand I did ask for, please tell me if there's any feedback and, where I can course correct what I'm not seeing right. And I want to hear that. But I didn't even get to really share all those lessons because we have questions coming in and then it kind of took a different direction. And that's organic. And I love that. But it's just one thing to consider when we do our healing calls, because we do want to share our lessons in there. So anyway, I love you all.
Amy, that's a really good point. And I think that we could probably address that better in Alliance so we don't use up this call timer. But the quick version is whoever's helping to moderate that call should also know have a good discernment on how to balance between questions and lessons because lessons usually trump questions. Lessons usually answer questions in the process.
Thank you. Go ahead, Nick, and then Nicora.
Yeah, I was on Amy's healing call. I think it's a good point that we need to hear the person give the full story of what their issues are and what lessons they've learned. Because if they get interrupted by questions, what ends up happening is you might not hear something that may be pertinent to helping them heal because they haven't shared it yet. So instead, have them say what they want to say fully so you have the full picture, and then you can start asking questions and offering advice. I think that that's a better way because it kind of takes the person off track and maybe they lose their train of thought and they don't get out what they, as Amy said, what they wanted to share because they were kind of taken off track by questions or comments. That's just my opinion. What I did want to offer was maybe something along the lines of a quorum swap, kind of like a foreign exchange student program where we ask people to volunteer, 2 or 3 people, let's say, from a quorum to be willing to go on another quorum's either healing call or a quorum call and vice versa so that one, they get to know each other in different quorums and also they get to participate in different types of healing calls, but not the people that usually volunteer, asking for new volunteers who haven't participated before to say, would you guys be willing to go to, California's quorum call or healing call, and they're sending someone over to New York so you kind of get people quorums constantly swapping nodes, and you're getting cross pollination, and you have them volunteer, so you're not pushing them into it. And most people that haven't participated probably would be willing to go on at least the quorum call, maybe not feeling so comfortable about their ability in terms of healing calls, but it's a good way to cross pollinate and also have people learn more about each other in all the different quorums.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Nick, and it's actually something that we were looking to do for Servant Team nodes as well. So we'll probably action that one later on this year because of all the healing that needs to take place first. But yeah, fully support that.
Go ahead, Nicora.
Hi, everybody. Really quickly, can you hear me all good? Yes, great, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to really quickly say for the people who might be only starting to join the healing calls to support each other, I just wanted to say that it really doesn't have to be perfect. Because like if you say something funny, then that's beautiful because then you can reflect on it later on, how you can better share your intent, what you wanted to share, and then you can do it better next time. Or like if you find a trigger for yourself while participating in a healing call, then that's beautiful too, because then you know what to focus on while self-reflecting and healing yourself. And so like at the end of the day, we are a family of love, unconditional love, and we support each other and encourage each other as we learn and grow. And so really the main thing is to start actioning, even if it feels a bit uncomfortable at the start. And there is no comparison. We are all learning and growing all the time. So, we can do this. Let's do this together. Love you all.
Thank you, Nikora. Go ahead, Elle, and then Matt.
Thanks, Danielle. Yeah, I wanted to harken back a moment to something that Yoki said that I thought was really important for us to remember. And she said, and I'm paraphrasing, but you said that we have to remember that we can be students and teachers at the same time. And that is effectively what something that I think is a great philosophy to carry with us for all time, because that is effectively what we are always going to be doing. And in this moment in time, being a student is super key because we are all learning how to better help each other with our healing as we're also learning how to continue healing ourselves. And so to remain a student in that student mindset makes it a lot easier to be forgiving of yourself when you do make mistakes because you're not expecting yourself to be perfect. You're not expecting other people to be perfect. What you're really just wanting to do is step into the actioning of trying, of giving your best, to committing to being the best you can be at this moment as you're learning along the way. And as we learn, then we can turn around and teach and share with others, because what is teaching ultimately? It's sharing what we know, right? From having a lived experience of it, not just textbook. That's what's going to make us different from other people who've been experts before. We know what we know because we've lived it. So, and we're learning things together. So, as being students. So, I really wanted to highlight that, because one of the first things we can do is as students is to help each other learn better what works on calls. How can you go to and support a healing call and show up in that call in the best possible ways. And it's usually more than being one thing. Sometimes it might be just really holding that space, actively listening and supporting those who are speaking while you're paying attention to what is being said, how a question is being asked, looking to learn how to read when the person who is, the recipient of the healing call, how they are responding. So you know whether this approach might be really helpful in another situation that you'll be in or not. So these are all I guess what I'm really wanting to highlight here is that it's not about how much experience you have at this point. It's about how much heart you have in being willing to put yourself out there to continue to learn and get better and appreciate that nobody is perfect. No one's asking anyone to be perfect. What we're really asking for is for everyone to step up and to commit and to keep going, even when it's sometimes, you're going to feel uncomfortable in doing something that maybe you haven't done before or that you didn't do that well. So in that, particular moment. And the other thing I also wanted to say real fast is that don't forget your own healing, because it's never done. And we're all at a point where, like, you can get to a point where you feel pretty good because you see the evidence of your healing around you. So you're like, oh, great. But that doesn't mean that the work is done, because the work is never truly done. And so the more we get comfortable and used to also always using what we're hearing to apply to ourselves in these calls. That's another reason why these calls are such gems, because you will hear something that will be beautifully appropriate to you that you would never have thought of or necessarily reached on your own had you not been on that call. So anyway, I just wanted to underscore that not, don't mistake being on calls for being, okay, I'm doing my healing. They're they're two separate things. Healing calls help us with our healing, but they're not a replacement for that time and introspection that is needed. So anyway, I love you guys, and this has been a phenomenal call.
Thanks, Abel. And I just want to add really quickly that this is a really important point, because if you are on a lot of healing calls and you're already getting your own support, then in theory, because of your own healing that you've been doing, you should be advancing up the scale in terms of medbed. So if you don't feel you've hit medbed 0.5 or 1.0 or 2.0, then you haven't been doing healing. Okay.
Thank you. For the sake of time, because we only have like 7 minutes left in the call, I want to respect that we have, I see Steve from Maine and Eva that
Yeah.
we haven't heard from, and I think they probably have questions instead of
Yep. Skip.
commentary. So if we can go ahead, and if you two have questions, we'll start with Steve, and if we have time, we'll go to Eva.
Yeah, I don't really have a question, but I do have a pretty, I think it's a good observation that I've made. I've been on a lot of the healing calls, and I've noticed that, and I was talking last night with the New York Quorum about it, and Mike was there, and Mike said to me, he said, I had it all planned out and everything, and then a couple of minutes before, I went on the call, he said, I just decided to just let it rip, and it was a fantastic call. I noticed that some of these calls that I've been on have been kind of, they're very measured. The person who's having the healing call is very measured. It's almost choreographed. And I actually have a healing call on Monday, and I told those guys I'm just going to let it rip. You know what I mean? Because this is all about the healing comes from the sacred tears, right? And you can't heal if you're not if you're going on by bullet points on something written down. Sure, you can have little things that you want to cover, but that was my observation that I had made, was that you really this is an emotional thing. People need to what's the word I'm looking for? You need to become you need to open up is basically what I'm saying, and not be hiding. Thank you.
Hey Steve, I want to jump in and just make a couple caveats and course corrections on that because yes, it is important for the tears to flow, but that's not the true full indicator of healing. You also have to have the lessons, right? So you combine the two together, and then the anchor part is when you embody the lessons. So you have to be able to make the feelings connect to your heart. You have to be able to understand what you learned, and then you have to anchor it by embodying it. Otherwise, it's just all in your head, but you haven't actually felt it. So you're not actually changing anything if you don't anchor it with the lessons. So I
Okay.
hope that makes it more clear. And in terms of like flow versus structure, I don't think it has to be one or the other. I think people need to do what makes the most sense for them because everybody is different. So sometimes having bullet points really helps to anchor in the talking points, and sometimes going on flow is better for other people. So I think we should be very flexible on that part.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you, Emily. This was just my observations that I had made, and some they were just very, very choreographed, and we never really drilled down on anything.
All good. Thank you, Steve. No worries.
Okay, thanks.
All right, we'll go to Eva, and then if anyone else has any questions that you want to ask, if you just want to put them in Alliance and tag.
Carmen's got her hand raised too. So Ava and then Carmen, and then we'll probably close out the call.
Okay, we'll go to both then. Thank you, boss. Go ahead, Eva.
Thank you. Actually, well, yes, I have one observation and one question. The first one is about the bridging quorums, because well, I'm admin in the French quorum, and we just had actually two quorum healing calls, so for the whole quorum, and I just learned that there are people that don't like that English is being spoken in the quorums because, well, they don't understand anything. And actually, we had a call with Manuel, and he was phenomenal. He stayed for 4 hours. The call ended at 1 a.m. Finnish time, I think, and he didn't understand anything. But he spoke at the end, and then he spoke for 30 minutes. So there were some people that didn't understand at all because but it was in English. They didn't understand it at all. And actually, when we had the second healing call, they told us that they were really angry, and they are angry to read English actually in the quorum in the chat, because I love when other people are coming from other quorums and they send messages and they are in English. I'm not bothered, but actually I see that there are some people that don't like it.
Thanks, Ava. That's usually a sign of a lot of communication entities. So that's probably something that we can take a look at further for all the international ones.
Yeah, and now I wanted to ask you actually because you are speak about this healing face-to-faces, but we are not able to do face-to-faces right now in France. So would it be possible maybe do this healing face-to-faces only and not anything else?
Yes, Ava, for France specifically, but I would like you to be present because you seem to be the strongest node there right now. So I definitely want your strength to be present for them. So it's not like other nodes are creating events just to have an event and then call it a healing thing without actually seeing any improvements made. All right, Carmen, we'll go the last one to you, and then I've got to end the call because I have a hard stop in 1 minute.
I'll be very succinct and to the point. If you haven't joined any healing calls, I encourage you very much to join them. When I first joined the very first one, I thought to myself, I don't know if I'm going to contribute. And I didn't contribute that first time. But as I have jumped on more and more healing calls, I gain a lot more confidence with what everyone is saying and how I can contribute. And so be gentle with yourself in knowing that you can contribute, but it's really about being present. So jump in, make the first one. If you don't say anything, that's great. You'll get something from it every single time. And the greatest thing that you can do is be present for someone else. It makes such a difference to them. So I encourage every single one of you, if you haven't jumped on any calls, jump on them. Thank you.
Thank you, Carmen. I've got 3 quick points I want to end on, and then if Liana, you have a really last final thought, but then I do got to close out the call because my other call's already waiting for me right now. 3 points. One, if you guys haven't noticed, the theme that we're trying to look for right now is we've been focusing on Florida with Lenny and Callie, but as we keep repeating, Operas is going to go global, which means soon you're going to be noticing in your own individual quorum, you're going to be having a version of a Lenny and Callie or a version of Nadia and Rory, etc. So this is why we need everyone to step up their game and be way more observant than they have been. And so it's not about how do I get into Florida, how do I get into operas, but you're already in operas, let's get to work. And that's actually going to be one way to help answer Yoki's question about how do we have more cross-quorum collaboration. It's because you're already in the collaboration. So it's just time to recognize that you are and time to start actioning it. The second point is even though every quorum's going to have their own version of a Lenny and Callie, I want to make it clear that we don't need to sponsor everyone in every quorum like we are Lenny and Callie. That was a very, very unique situation. And it's not going to happen in any other quorum. Now, if we need to make other kinds of accommodations, then we can, take a look at it case by case basis, but there won't be any separate fund getting people housing, none of that. So I want to make that very clear. And the last comment I want to make is I like how, Liana, you said real world asset and you changed it to real world application. I'm going to take it one step further and say now, starting tomorrow, it's going to be a true test of real world archetypes. So, any very fast last minute thoughts, Liana?
Nope,
No?
you got about.
Okay. All right. Sorry to end this call so quickly, but I gotta run. Thank you everybody for joining. We'll post the call shortly, and then any other questions, put them into Alliance, guys. Thanks, guys.
Love
Take
you.
care.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.